This happened to me when I was around 11 years old. It was the 90s. Many Hispanic families have stories of the paranormal. One popular legend is the legend of the weeping woman, La Llorona. The legend of La Llorona has been a part of Hispanic culture in the Southwest since the days of the conquistadors. The tall, thin spirit is said to be blessed with natural beauty and long flowing black hair. Wearing a white gown, she roams the rivers and creeks, wailing into the night and searching for children to drag screaming to a watery grave. No one really knows when the legend of La Llorona began, or from where it originated. Though the tales vary from source to source, the one common thread is that she's the spirit of a doomed mother who drowned her children and now spends an eternity searching for them in rivers and lakes. I lived in a trailer with my mom and dad, and on one night, just like any other, I fell asleep on our living room couch watching Jay Leno. I woke up at around 4 a.m. The television was off, and I normally left the light on, but this time it was pitch black. I heard a horrible screaming that was coming from a distance. The screaming was coming from a ditch that was a few feet away from my home. I heard it, and I thought I was hearing things. I asked myself, am I dreaming? Then I started to hear the cats and dogs outside howling and whimpering. As the screaming got closer, the animals continued to cry. The screaming was something I've never experienced before. It sounded like I was in a big hallway, and a woman was screaming her guts out down that hallway. Then, in all the screaming, I started to make out words. The woman said, "Ay, mi hijos," which meant, "Oh, my children." I quickly got up from the sofa and ran to the kitchen, right next to where I was asleep. I turned the closest light and looked around. The screaming didn't stop. In fact, it only got louder and closer. I questioned my sanity. Was I going crazy? Was I hearing things? Then I remembered that the animals outside are clearly reacting to this presence. I did what any other 11-year-old boy would do. I ran to my parents' room. I reached for my mom and wildly shook her awake. She slowly woke up, and to my amazement, the screaming faded away. "Mom, do you hear that? There's a lady screaming and crying." My mom was half asleep and said, "Go back to sleep. You're imagining things." I told her, "No, this is real. Please listen. Don't you hear her?" My mom just said, "You're dreaming. Go back to sleep. It's going to be okay." By then the screaming had faded away, as if whoever was screaming knew that an adult was awake now. I was terrified as I returned to the living room and quickly turned on the TV, and I left most of the lights on. I couldn't go back to sleep until the sun came out. I couldn't believe what I heard, what I just witnessed. Whenever I tell this story to people, they look at me like I'm crazy. After a while, I just stopped talking about it, and I kept my experience to myself. To this day, I don't care what people think of my story. I know what I heard.